House of the Dragon Season 1 Episode 2 is called The Rogue Prince, and the Rogue Prince, of course, is Daemon Targaryen. And there's plenty of Daemon Targaryen in this episode, but the guy who's kicking off the action and setting the tone for the episode is probably Corlys Velaryon, who is an angry man for more than one reason. One very good reason to be angry is the crab feeder down in the stepstones at the south of Westeros at the southern end of the Narrow Sea. The crab feeder's pretty metal. He's got a very literal name because we see him feeding the corpses of his enemies to crabs, and the not corpses as well. Like I say, pretty metal. From there, we jump to the small council, which sets up the different plot threads in this episode. As we arrive, we learn that the Lord Commander is dead. They have a new Lord Commander, but they need to nominate a new Kingsguard to fill the empty spot. Corlys is like, forget your new Kingsguard, let's talk about the stepstones. My ships aren't getting through, I'm losing money. Viserys prefers a more cautious approach. The crab feeder is supported by the free cities. He doesn't want war with them. Otto Hightower, also very much a conservative, agrees. That's honestly a bit of a weak response. This is Viserys at his most hopes and wishes fantasy land, hoping that if he frames the world differently, it'll change the facts. I think Corlys is right to ask for more action here. Viserys' brother, Daemon, the rogue prince himself, is the next topic of conversation. He's ignored instructions to go to the Vale and has gone to Dragonstone instead. He's been there for 6 months, since the end of episode 1, and Viserys has done nothing about it. Corlys pipes up again. The crown isn't feared. Corlys gets told to watch his mouth, just for pointing out facts. The Princess Rhaenyra is attending the small council as a cupbearer. For whatever reason, Viserys decides he doesn't want her there anymore. She's dismissed and told to choose the new King's Guard. She stands above them, talks to a few candidates, and decides that she wants a man, she wants a killer, she wants someone who completely knows what they're doing in terms of martial prowess. Otto Hightower reminds Rhaenyra that there are political ramifications to the choice that she makes, keeping one house or another a little bit closer to the throne. Remind them, Otto says, thank them for their leal service. Rhaenyra thanks them for their loyal service. I like the way the different vocabulary is used here to show the difference between the older and the younger generation. Rhaenyra chooses Sir Criston Cole, who put Daemon on his arse at the Heirs tournament in episode 1. The way they're looking at each other, it seems like there's not just political aspects to Rhaenyra's choice. Next, we cut to Viserys and Alicent hanging out in his chamber. We see the giant model that Viserys was working on in the previous episode, and we learn it's Valyria, and Viserys waxes lyrical about the 1,000 dragons, the glory of old Valyria, never seen again. He's holding a small model of a dragon, which he drops and it shatters on the floor. Some symbolism there, maybe? Viserys holding the dynasty in his hands and he lets it slip through his fingers. He changes the conversation to ask about how Rhaenyra is. They've not been talking much since her mother's death. Then we cut to Rhaenyra and Alicent. Rhaenyra is thinking about her father remarrying and is worried about her own position. He didn't choose me, he spurns Daemon. Alicent and Rhaenyra seem closer than they were before. Alicent gets a bit preachy and pushes her religion on Rhaenyra. Rhaenyra tries lighting a candle and starts crying. She promises she'll be trying harder with her dad, which we see them doing at dinner slightly later. They talk about Criston Cole, they talk about their mother. Rhaenyra's still unhappy, she's still being treated like a child. Viserys also has his own problems, both political and personal. Corlys Velaryon is back, and this time he's brought his wife. He apologises for his behaviour at the small council. His wife Rhaenys, the queen who never was, jumps in. The crown is vulnerable, the king has no wife, Rhaenyra is a girl, Daemon is doing his rogue thing, the stepstones are basically at war. They lay out the problem, they offer a solution. It's a marriage for Viserys to Corlys Velaryon's daughter. Rhaenys points out that more heirs are needed, and not only that, more heirs are expected of Viserys. So this gives Viserys some food for thought. We see him next with Otto Hightower and Master Melios. After the thing they found on his back in episode 1, now we see his little finger is rotting away. Master Melios puts it in maggots to try and save it. While he's being treated, Viserys talks about the marriage proposal. Melios says it offers unity, domestic unity. It projects a bit more power to the free cities in Essos. Otto says, no, this is not the route to go down. But Corlys Velaryon is a powerful guy, so Viserys kind of has to entertain it. We see Viserys and the daughter that they've offered, who's 12, chatting. It's a very uncomfortable scene. They talk about Valyria again, how Viserys was the last rider of Balerion the Black Dread, Aegon the Conqueror's dragon. Laena asks about Vhagar, another dragon who was around during the conquest. I imagine, she says, even dragons get lonely. Rhaenyra is watching the two of them walk through the gardens, as well as Rhaenys. And Rhaenys asks, does it bother Rhaenyra that her father is going to marry again, is probably going to have sons, and the realm will expect the son to be heir? They bent their knee to me, Rhaenyra says. Already we can see the seeds of future problems going on here. Then there's another scene of Alicent and Viserys chatting. He tells her how the small council are pressuring him to marry. Alicent has a present for him. She got the broken dragon fixed. She put things back together for him. But then Otto comes in. There is some bad news. At the small council, they find out Daemon has stolen a dragon egg and left a message describing himself as the rightful heir. Daemon says he's going to take a second wife in the Valyrian tradition. His wife is called Mysaria. She's already pregnant, and Viserys is invited to the wedding. We learn this from the Dragon Keepers, these sweaty, nervy people who, as the name implies, care for the dragons in the dragon pit and at Dragonstone. Rhaenyra, who's at the small council in her capacity as cupbearer, asks which egg did they steal, and it turns out it's Prince Balon's egg, the baby who was born on the day that Queen Aemma died. Viserys is very passive, but this insult spurs him into action, and Otto is like, hey, whoa there, cowboy, I'll go instead. This serves a couple of purposes, I think. Firstly, it keeps the king safer. It means the king doesn't have to deal with his disrespectful brother, and it also gives Alicent another opportunity to develop her relationship with the king. As Otto says before he leaves, maybe you could wear one of your mother's dresses. What a creepy guy. So this is the big set-piece confrontation of episode 2. They're on Dragonstone, on the stairs below the castle. Otto and his guys walking up the stairs. Daemon and Mysaria and his loyal gold cloaks waiting for them above, in the more physically elevated position. Otto calls this a pathetic, desperate mummer's farce. He insults Mysaria as a whore. Daemon insults Criston Cole by misnaming him. Perhaps my prince, Criston replies, recalls when I knocked him off his horse. Daemon's a good enough bloke to see the fun in that. Otto continues, to choose violence here is to declare war on your king. Wonderful, Daemon replies. He's a bit of an agent of chaos. Otto continues, it would also mean the death of your unborn child and its mother. This is the comment that raises the stakes. Everyone draws their sword, and suddenly we hear a shrieking in the background. It's Daemon's dragon Caraxes, this giant red wormy thing that squeals like, I don't really know how to describe it. The sound design is really good here. Otto tells his guys to put their swords away. A second dragon suddenly appears out of the clouds and flies over the heads of Otto and Daemon. It's the Princess Rhaenyra on Syrax. Syrax lands on the causeway and Rhaenyra steps off. We get a shot of the two different forces, each backed by a dragon. And here's the thesis statement of the show. If you've got human versus human, maybe no one really wants to fight. If you've got human, but on the other side, human plus dragon, one side has a huge advantage. If you've got dragons on both sides, really anything could happen. It's the nuclear bomb of the franchise. Once these things start breathing fire at each other, no one can really say what's going to happen. Rhaenyra, cool as a cucumber, walks through her father's troops, past Criston, past Otto, walks up to Daemon and says, kill me. Daemon decides that the confrontation is no longer worth it and casually throws the egg back at her. Daemon and Mysaria go back into the castle. Rhaenyra, Otto, Criston and the rest go back to King's Landing. Mysaria is angry. She knew nothing about the marriage and the pregnancy. Back in King's Landing, Viserys is making new friends. He's talking to Lord Strong. Lord Strong recommends that Viserys wed Laena Velaryon. Viserys is also angry with his daughter, Rhaenyra, disobeyed him. Rhaenyra acknowledges that she did this, but pointed out that Otto couldn't have reached the resolution that she did. They have another chat about their grief over her mother. Viserys promises even if he has to marry, he's not replacing his mother. He's also not replacing Rhaenyra as heir. But we jump to the small council, and he announces to the members that he's decided to take a new wife. He's marrying Alicent Hightower. Corlys Velaryon, obviously, extremely unhappy. Storms out. Rhaenyra, also extremely unhappy, leaves too. Wrapping up the episode, we're on Driftmark, and we hear Corlys talking about his house. The Velaryons are an older house. They don't have dragons. The camera pulls around, and we see that he's chatting to Daemon. They're talking about the Stepstones, where we were back at the beginning of the episode. They are a chance to prove your worth. Corlys draws a parallel between himself and Daemon. Daemon is the second son. The Velaryons are the second house of the realm. Our worth is not given, he says. It must be made. I guess we'll see in episode 3 how they're going to make it.